Hey, it's already August and we still don't have group rides or in-person club meetings. And that's hard.
Maybe we're starting to feel less like a club and more like individuals who own bikes. If you've been distancing, it's very hard to feel connected. No races, no friendly group rides.
Maybe we can't see the light at the end of the tunnel yet, and so it can feel like things are stuck.
Just know that we're here. Even now, we're more than individuals alone, and every month, we're going to try our best to remind you of that.
We want you to know that the club is working to find ways for us to connect during this pandemic and to prepare us to ride safely together when the time comes.
And now the news.
Oh yeah!
Welcome to NWCC News. I'm Lainey.
And I'm Brent.
We have a lot of great things going on this month, and links to everything we talk about in the video are in the description.
Last month we sat down with local area bike shops, and this month we had the opportunity to chat with two advocacy groups. We sit down with Ricky Kleinsmith of the Greater Houston Off-Road Biking Association, and we also got time with Nick Hellyar, Interim Executive Director of Bike Houston.
We hope you enjoy.
So GHORBA is a 501(c) nonprofit, all volunteer-based organization that works with landowners and land managers to develop single track and natural surface trails in the greater Houston area. So we're all volunteers, and what that means is we have trail stewards that go out, they take volunteers to work trails, make sure they're in good condition, build trails. We've got a board of directors that works with the local municipalities, local landowners, local land managers to come up with agreements so that we can have these trails in Houston. And then from GHORBA's perspective, we provide the budgets to those trail stewards so that they can get the necessary supplies and materials to maintain the trail.
Houston is an advocacy group in Houston and the Houston area, including the whole metro area. And our focus is to advocate for I wouldn't say lobby, but to work with local elected officials, TERSs, management districts to improve bike safety, the safety culture, intersections, that sort of thing. We work with Vision Zero, which the mayor set forth, and also to advocate for more biking infrastructure. So that's the majority of what we spend our time on these days is working in the political realm, in the advocacy realm, in the nonprofit realm to improve and promote the cycling culture in the Houston area, in the Houston metro area itself.
So we go up from the Woodlands, we have trails in the Woodlands, we have some trails that are maintained up in the Double Lake area, up in Sam Houston National Forest, all the way up to Huntsville. We have some trails, and then we go down. We're working now to hopefully get some trails down in the League City area. So we're all over. We've got Memorial Park, we've got Cypress, we've got Spring. We're all over the area.
So we have partnerships with other nonprofits that kind of drive people to us, and we push people to them. We have annual rides that we do each year. And we have a bike summit, which unfortunately got canceled this year. So between events and bike rides and working with other nonprofits, we kind of have multiple different avenues where people can find out about us. And we try and do as many events as we can. Again, before COVID, it was a lot easier to set up a booth, at the trails at Memorial Park, which we can't do anymore. So we're trying to be creative in how Bike Houston is kind of finding our members these days.
So we're seeing a huge spike in ridership on the trails. A lot of newbies out there with their new bikes, which is fantastic. We want people to be out there. We want people to use the trails and be active. It's definitely great for their mental health. But what we're also seeing is you've got a lot of new riders, and they are riding, they don't know how to ride trails. They're not wearing the appropriate equipment. We see a lot of riders without helmets. They're not wearing appropriate gear to ride. Some of these, if you're going to be doing jumps and using some of the features, you should be wearing elbow pads and knee pads, and making sure that you're not riding above your level. So we've seen an increase in accidents and injuries on the trail, as well as an increase in needed maintenance. You have a lot of new riders. They are riding on wet trails, which we recommend you don't, especially in the Houston area where it's super flat and it affects your trails greatly. So they're riding right after rain. That requires more maintenance. Absolutely, having more use requires more maintenance. So we're seeing an influx in that, and our trail stewards are doing a good job trying to keep up with everything.
So what we're trying to do is, and as we talked about before, we're trying to capture this great enthusiasm for cycling that we haven't seen in ages. And I'm sure with the conversation that you had with the bike shops, it's impossible to get in to get maintenance done. There's no bikes for sale anywhere. So we really want to harness this time and get new people involved in our mission at Bike Houston, working with other nonprofits like the MS-150 and Bike Around the Bay, and as many of the bike stores as we can to improve our membership, get our name out there so that we can, the more members we have, the larger voice that we have down at City Hall and Commissioner's Court to advocate for these changes. So if something comes before City Council or County Commissioners, the more membership that we have, the more people that we can get to a meeting to speak up, the more power we're going to have. So we're just trying to capture this moment in time and keep it moving forward.
One of the biggest things is we're all funded through membership. We're funded through personal and corporate donations. And while we've seen a slight uptick in membership because of this and everybody getting out and riding, we've seen a huge downside in personal donations and corporate donations. So overall our budget is kind of at a little bit of a loss right now. Because people are scaling back, understandably, right? Corporations are laying people off. They're not giving to nonprofits as much. People are being laid off, so they're not donating to organizations that much and stuff like that. So that's kind of the biggest thing that we're seeing right now is a financial hit to our standing budget. It takes money to maintain these trails.
Obviously, with COVID going on, trying to be sensitive to people who might not have the ability to keep up their membership or donate as much as they have in the past. So we're working as hard as we can during these crazy times to keep our mission going forward and work with members and donors as we can. I think that there's two big problems that we're facing right now. One, we can't have events. So our biggest event of the year, the Bike Summit, was canceled. And even trying to put together smaller rides is difficult because we want to keep everybody's safety in mind. So where we would be, every weekend we would have a tent or we would be out somewhere doing something in the community. We just can't do that anymore. So I think physically being in places is the biggest thing that we're doing right now. And obviously that hurts our membership because, if you can pick up 5-10 memberships on a weekend and you can't do that anymore, that's been pretty bad. Also, on a kind of advocacy side, I think the strain on municipal and county budgets these days is going to be a major issue. We can come up with all the great plans that we want, but if the city doesn't have enough money to fund it, it's not going to happen. So I think those are the two biggest issues that we faced in COVID at Bike Houston these days.
So what we'll have to see is basically what it looks like at the end of the year, right? So we've been, from a budget perspective, we've been smart and conservative these past few years. We've got enough that we can, make it through the year, plan into next year, and see how this goes. If this is a continued long-term issue where we're struggling to raise funds, we'll have to make an organizational strategy change to see, do we shrink the trails? Do we shrink the budgets to each of the trails? How do we go about doing that, right? But right now what we're trying to do is basically just focus on we have some new growth trails that we're looking at. We've got money in our budget to cover this year and next year. So we're looking pretty good. We're not looking too far into the future to see how this is going to affect us negatively. In some trails there, while the ridership has gone up, some of the volunteer activity has gone down, right? So that makes it a little bit more difficult to maintain the trails. But for overall, things are running pretty status quo. We're doing a good job keeping the trails up as best as possible.
Having grown up in the Houston area, the difference, like you just said, that we've seen in the last 5 years is we're light years ahead of where we were, 10, 15 years ago. So, advocating with Commissioner Ellis's office to get new bike lanes put in on the east side of Houston. He's been instrumental in pushing that forward with his budget. Working with management and TERS lately has been really helpful. I used to work at City Hall for a city council member, so I understand the budgeting process right now for the city is incredibly tight. They just simply don't have any money. So when you are looking for avenues of funding for a bike trail, we have to get creative because there's just no money in the city budget these days. So what we've been doing is working with these quasi-governmental agencies to get some bike lanes done. So I know West Dallas is in the works. Brazos and Bagby streets are going to have bike lanes on them. Shepherd and Durham, all the way from 610 to I-10, is being completely redone right now, and they're putting in bike lanes. So just anytime, what's important right now is anytime a project comes up, to be at the table to advocate for some sort of bike infrastructure. If you wait until after it's already completed, it's more expensive and people aren't willing to do it. But if you get with the planners and public works before a project in the planning process, it's much easier to say, gosh, we'd really like a 10-foot wide sidewalk here or protected bike lanes than waiting for something to be completed and going back and doing it. So Bike Houston's been sitting at the table while these projects and trying to get as much done as we can in the early stages so that it's not such a high cost for the city. And I would like to just say that the city of Houston has hired a new transportation planner named David Fields, and he's been doing fantastic work at the city. And it feels like we've turned a corner at the city of Houston, and bike infrastructure is at the forefront of everybody's mind when a project is being done. So I'm really excited about what's happened in the last 5 years and what we can do in the next few.
One of the biggest things that we have, our trail stewards are huge on communication. They each run kind of their own Facebook page for each of the trails, and they have a lot of members, a lot more members on those Facebook pages than GHORBA has members that are paying dues and stuff like that. And the stewards are fantastic at getting the word out. They're on the trails constantly. They're talking to people constantly. They're handing out flyers and cards and information about GHORBA to new riders. A lot of times we get people that come into the Facebook page or email through the GHORBA website and say, "Hey, I love your trails. How can I help?" And then we'll direct them to the stewards and say, "Here's a member that's willing to help." So for people that want to get involved in GHORBA, the biggest thing is go to the GHORBA.org webpage, become a member. We absolutely thrive on those dues and donations. And then volunteer. We definitely need people with their boots on the ground helping to maintain these trails so that people can keep riding. The benefit of becoming a member is basically you're giving money directly to the trails. Your membership goes straight to the trails. We have very little administrative costs. We're buying some stickers here and there to get the word out, but the money goes directly to the trails, and that's the biggest benefit that you're getting is the more money we can get to the trails, the better the trails are, the better maintained they are, the more we can grow, the more we can talk to the cities and talk to the land managers and say, hey, we have a large group of people that love to ride natural surface trails. We want to bring them to your area, help us out.
Great. Well, I'd like to encourage everybody to go to our website, bikehouston.org, and hopefully you can spare some money to become a member. The money goes directly to advocating for cycling throughout the region. So anything you could do to increase our membership would really help. And I think the more that all cycling groups or clubs, nonprofits, whatever it is, bike shops can work together to promote it the better off we're all going to be, right? So anything that we can do together, just let Bike Houston know we're here to help and assist. And we usually have a calendar on our website that has, all the rides and events that are going on throughout the region. So we'd love to promote your stuff and, show up at your fundraisers and rides. And a lot of it is, people in all over the metro area are looking to get involved in their areas, right? So if we have some members in Northwest Houston that are new to cycling and want to get involved, they don't really, they don't know where to turn. So hopefully we can send some of these new folks in your direction too, and we can all kind of benefit from this increased awareness of cycling. And that's kind of our goal through the pandemic, is to get these new people involved wherever we can, so that when everything does open back up, hopefully sooner rather than later, that we keep people involved. I think there is a new awareness that people, they go, oh wow, there is some really cool stuff that we can do on bikes that they hadn't thought of before, and they were kind of forced into it during the lockdown because they couldn't go anywhere else. But let's keep those people riding.
Two of the current projects that we're working on, things have kind of slowed down a little bit with everything going on right now. All of the organizations are, the cities and stuff like that have slowed down with their communication. But two main projects, we've got a project with the Woodlands where we're looking to add a few miles of natural surface trails to the George Mitchell Nature Preserve. And then we're also working with Precinct 1 to add some trails to Eisenhower Park. So our advocacy director, Kevin Highland, has been doing an amazing job, as well as our VP, who's also the director of trails, CJ, in advocating with the local representatives to get these trails going. And then one more thing, for riders, all riders, we've had quite a few injuries in the past few months, and unfortunately, there's even been a couple deaths. Not just on our trails, but other local trails, due to people not wearing helmets and riding above their level. So I want to make sure that everybody is wearing the proper safe gear. And also, we've seen a lot of new rogue trails. People are out there riding, they're excited, they want to explore. And that's not good for our organization, and it's not good for the Houston mountain biking scene, because most of these trails are cut with the local land managers. We've gotten the trails approved, they know where they're going, they know where they want them, and when people come in and they cut their own new trails, it really makes advocacy hard for us, because land managers don't just want us going wherever we want to, they want to make sure that we're sticking to the trails and stuff like that. So
we need people to staff these events every weekend that we have when we do open back up, right? So the MS 150 is a great example. In the past, we've had kind of tents at their registration area where you can get people to sign up, and we want to be involved in the county parks. If there's events going on, we need help getting people to staff our tents, go to events, and get out the word of cycling in the area. So absolutely, we can use anybody that wants to get involved, that wants to help promote cycling in the region. Absolutely, we have all kinds of stuff for people to do.
Thank you so much to Bike Houston and to GHORBA for taking the time this month to talk to us.
But wait, I thought we had one more thing from GHORBA.
Oh yeah, that's right. We do. Here you go. Check this out.
For the month of August, GHORBA is going to be running a bike raffle, and the details will be available on our website. And if you sign up for our newsletter, we'll be sending out the details on how to get involved in that bike raffle through our newsletter.
A free bike.
That's right. So make sure you guys check out their link in the description. That's kind of it for our show this month. Thank you so much as always for watching, and remember,
Grab a helmet
grab your bike
and get riding.